Hi, my name is Olivia, and I will be talking about what is a difficult employee. So, the basic definition of a difficult employee is known as someone who does not behave in a professional manner at their workplace. It's also someone who can turn any environment at work into either a unpleasant experience or straight up toxic. Now, there's a very fine line between a difficult employee and a toxic employee, which I will be discussing later on. But it's normally someone who can change the work experience for everybody around them. And it's usually can be spotted. A difficult employee can usually be spotted by having either a poor work performance, a bad or just overall distracting attitude, and undermining the supervisor's authority. So you may be wondering, what are the kinds of difficult employees? So there are eight. There's like more, but these are like the most common, most seen kinds of difficult employees. So the very first one is called the attacker. All in all, it's just someone who attacks the other employees around them and says that, well, basically, like they know best, they should have this job. If someone says something, they will attack, make them feel horrible about themselves. Like they just don't want anyone else to win unless it's them. The comic. That's just basically the person who thinks that a day of work is basically their jig at a stand up comedy job. They will make jokes about everything to the point where nobody can get work done because they're so focused on what are they doing? Like, what joke are they making next? Like, it's very similar to like what you'd see like with Jim in the office, where he'd be more focused on doing jokes than actually making sales. The next one, the deserter. That's basically someone who, when the going gets tough, they leave. They don't want to do it. They just are like, all right, I'm going home for the day. They do not care. They do not want to do any work, and if it gets harder for them to do work, they're gonna leave. Not quit, just go home for the day or go on break or do whatever just to get out of there. Next, the limelight seeker. So that's someone who basically just wants all the attention on them. Like they do not want to share the attention with anybody. They want it all on them at all times, to the point where they will take credit for other people's work just to keep it on them because they want to seem like they're the best. The next one, not my jobber. That's someone who basically says, well, that's not my job. Now, there is a fine line between saying, hey, that's not my job, I'm not getting paid for that, versus I'm not going to do that while still getting paid for having to do something similar to that. The next one is the bleeding heart. That's someone who's willing to do anything for the company despite what they need. Yes, it's not a difficult employee, but they tend to pick up the slack for the difficult employees, which then turn them into a difficult employee because then supervisors can't really see like, oh, this work isn't getting done because the bleeding heart's willing to do it all. The next one is the complainer. That's someone who basically complains about anything, anytime, to the point where they're bringing down morale because of how often they're complaining. The next one is the moonlighter. That's someone who treats this job as their second job, and despite it being their only job, and does not really consider anything at that job a priority and will kind of put on the back burner until they kind of have to take it off the back burner. So, like I said, there are toxic employees and there are difficult employees. What is the difference? So, difficult employees tend to have a resistance to change or criticism, but toxic people are not even willing to listen to what the change or criticism may be. They're like, no, I'm perfect. I can do whatever I want because I'm the best and I know what I'm doing. Like, and as you can see, I wrote that they're extremely competitive and entitled because they think I'm the best. Like, why would I have to listen to anything anybody says about me? I know I'm the best. I'm not going to listen. Difficult employees also tend to have actions that can undermine or overall slow down the team or workability, but toxic employees tend to just kind of halt any work team or work abilities because they're like, oh, the attention's not on me. I need the attention on me. I don't want to work with a team. I'm too good for a team, which goes back to the fact that they're extremely competitive and entitled. Difficult employees will also underperform as well, putting their needs and wants first. But toxic employees tend to not even underperform. They will not work if they don't feel like their needs and wants are being met. Difficult employees will also gossip, and toxic employees tend to turn that into bullying.
Hello, my name is Camden Christensen. I'm going to be discussing a little bit about difficult employees and job dissatisfaction. So, why are the employees being difficult? Well, much of the way that the employee acts is a reflection on their attitude. Likely, they'll either have favor or disfavor towards their work environment. That work environment includes their coworkers, their managers, and the job tasks that are part of their everyday. How an employee responds to their attitude in the workplace. Well, if they're happy, they generally perform their job well and they enjoy doing it. They might face some challenges, but they do so with the right perspective and are positive overall. However, when they are not happy, that's where job dissatisfaction sets in. And it's often what causes a difficult employee. So they might be dissatisfied with one part or several parts or even overall their entire job, which can create several issues for the firm and for their managers. Now, the responses to job dissatisfaction that we see from our employees are first, they might exit, the employee just leaves the firm. Second, they voice, meaning they discuss their dissatisfaction. Third is loyalty, where the employee just waits for the situation to improve. Or fourth, neglect, where the employee allows the situation to get worse and ultimately has less effort in their job. Now, exiting, when an employee exits the firm, it can be a major issue. It's an active response and destructive to the firm. And there are a host of issues that arise when they leave, especially when it's short notice, which is often the case. Now, managers can handle that situation in a few different ways. Typically, preventing the employee from leaving the firm is probably what you want to do. However, having proper communication can decide whether or not the employee is a good fit for the company and whether or not them staying or leaving is best for themselves as well as for the firm. Now, voicing is usually a constructive thing, and employees voicing their concerns is something that managers should want. However, it needs to be done in the proper way. So, typically we might see employees voicing their concerns, maybe negative feelings towards their workspace, towards their coworkers, or maybe to other people who are not in the firm. And that's not the approach that managers should want. They should want them to bring their concerns to the managers themselves. Now, an employee may decide to remain loyal to the firm. They might try to stick it out, kind of just hope for the best, which is ultimately a passive thing and it can be constructive. However, employees may still have bad feelings while they're remaining loyal to the firm. So while them remaining loyal to the firm is important, the reason why they're staying loyal is even more important and really needs to be considered by the different managers. Now, lastly, the probably the worst response to job dissatisfaction is neglect. And that's when an employee just kind of allows their situation to get worse. They either don't complete their work the right way or entirely, and they ultimately don't meet the expectations of management. And this can cause all kinds of other issues in the firm. So, what does a manager do to deal with the difficult employees that are dissatisfied with their work? First, don't just try to throw money at the problem, meaning don't offer more pay hoping that that will increase the satisfaction of the employee, because that is not a guarantee. Second, managers need to inspire their employees. They need to help their employees see their contributions to the firm and how they ultimately contribute to the success of the firm. And lastly, managers need to be open. Most of the time, employees just want to be heard and considered for their ideas and the way that they want to perform well in their job. While dissatisfaction in your employees is inevitable, ultimately collecting that unhappiness is a choice. And managers can respond the correct way or not at all and really reap the repercussions from that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cassie Fisher, and I'm going to be talking about loafing in relation to dealing with difficult employees. So, the first form of loafing I'm going to talk about is cyberloafing. Cyberloafing refers to improperly using work time to do unrelated activities online. And forms of this can include online shopping, social networking, which is basically just scrolling through social media and interacting with friends and family, or playing games, whether it be on your computer or on your phone. So cyberloafing is just another way of saying procrastinating and using your paid work time and putting that energy elsewhere. So studies have shown that the big 5 personality traits can affect the amount of cyberloafing each individual exhibits. So the 5-factor model of personality is described by the openness, extroversion, consciousness, neuroticism, and agreeableness of a person. So if you're more extroverted, studies have shown that you might be more likely to have bad cyberloafing habits, or if you test high with, say, anxiety and depression, which falls under neuroticism, you might be bad with cyberloafing and get distracted really easily. So, managing cyberloafing. So, cyberloafing is a complex problem to correct when in a management position due to how an employee responds to redirection. So, if you just lay down the law and try and really enforce rules, then employees may react in a negative way and won't want to follow that redirection. So being very cautious of that and motivating employees and approaching the situation in a positive way will essentially show positive results. So, as well as redirection, establishing an internet usage policy is also important because it decreases procrastination and it avoids legal matters, because if an employee ends up on a wrong site or even an inappropriate site while on work grounds or using work property, then it can turn into a legal matter because it's done under the company's name. So, ways to solve cyberloafing is you can encourage employees to break up their work into parts, which also goes with motivating employees, increases morale, because if you are encouraging employees to break up their work into parts, they might be less likely to fall victim of cyberloafing, because a lot of employees get stressed out really easily when they have a lot to be doing. So if you are encouraging them to break it up into parts and are telling them that it's okay to take longer, then they're going to be less likely to want to go on their phone or go on social media on their phone or computer. So, and ensuring rules are put into place and making sure that employees are actively following them. So just following up with employees and paying attention to the internet usage and how each employee is performing will make sure that such policies like that internet policy is actually working, and then require that each employee takes a personality test, which is the Big 5 personality test, because it really can pinpoint exactly how a employee is. So, simply just working with other individuals can be hard due to the many different personality and personal preferences each person holds. In collaborative projects, social loafing is bound to occur with members of the group. So, social loafers are individuals working in a group project that tend to slack off, and it's hard to filter them out because when you're in a big group, you don't really pay attention to individual performance. You're basically just worried about the group. So, motivation decreases with social loafers because people get mad that others are riding off of their back. So, group incentives are compensation that is determined by the actions of multiple individuals within an organization. It promotes strong teamwork, and you can get numerous ideas from everyone. So, piggybacking off of that, that is a way to solve social loafing because each group member will be more willing to participate when incentives are offered. And also, you have to limit the amount of people in each group and require that each person takes credit for each part that they do.
Hi, my name is Jared Hendricks. I'm going to be talking about difficult employees. So I want to first start this off with different point of views on how employees can affect the company. So I first want to start from the manager's point of view. So it can have a negative impact on team chemistry. So the manager's job is to create money for the company for his higher-ups. He's also to watch over the people that are below him. So if it has a negative impact on the team's chemistry, there's a few points that could come from it. So the coworkers don't work together with them. So if he's a toxic trait in a project, it's going to slow production. More complaints to HR, which could then lead to legal matters if that missing deadlines means affecting customer clientele. If they're not able to be relied on for perfect production on a set deadline, it's going to impact the company. Creates toxic work environment. So maybe turnover, the layover. Everybody wants to leave. They don't want to work with this guy because he's not a team player. People quit their job, and it's going to be less production because not everybody's on the same page, because if there's a weaker link in the group, it's going to affect them dramatically. Next, we have the employee's point of view. So as an employee, if you have a coworker who's affecting you negatively while trying to finish a project, they're not going to want to work with you. It could make people uncomfortable, and that could also lead to HR. I remember people saying that, or I remember in this course that we wanted to turn our workplace into a work home. So if this doesn't make the environment of a work home, it's going to affect how the chemistry between each other and how people work trying to get a project done. Because if the employees don't get the project done, they don't get paid. And if everyone doesn't get paid, they're going to leave the job because of this one virus that is considered this guy in the project. It's just going to, the chemistry doesn't click. It's going to create more complaints and bickering while working. Could get to legal matters if uncomfortable and non-compliant with the bosses. So if the boss's job is to produce products with the employees below him, it could affect how his job may be, because if he can't produce the products in a timely manner, he will get replaced. So as the employees, your new management is going to turn over. You can't work in a company where management is switching all the time and employees are switching over the time, because there's no, again, chemistry. I'm going to say that a lot. There's no chemistry for the people to build on. There's no way of working together if you have a person who is negatively impacting the production and the way how people feel while trying to do a project. Next, we have the client's point of view. So if the client is mad about the product because it is not done on the allotted time, it could affect them in a few ways. Complaints to the company, which would be like a Yelp review. And then if the Yelp review is negative, it could affect how other people see their company and how they would not want to go with this company if they need to get a test done. Dissatisfied with the product. One, it's going to take long, so the client's already going to be mad. Two, maybe you miss an error because everybody can't work together. Now it's going to create dissatisfaction where you could then lose a company. Then it hurts the reputation of a company. If they're not reliant on a project that needs to be done, people can't work with them, and they're not going to work with them, want to work with them in the future. And a lack of customer service skills. So lack of customer service skills can be described as if you can't talk to the employee in a precise and nice manner, disrespectful to the customers, it's not gonna make the exchange good. Lack of interest in getting more product. People, if you don't seem enthusiastic and want to help them in their way, they're not going to want to help you. Lost customers. If you're negative in any type of way, a small first impression does make a lot. But if this impression is not good, it could ruin the chemistry. And then some examples I worked. So some background. I worked at SaltCheck. We had a guy that was always late to work, lazy, slow to complete tasks. Had to be told many times to do it, and then if they didn't do it, we ended up having to do it. So we had to do a double workload. So it does affect everybody, because we're all probably going to go through this one portion where we're going to have a difficult employee. But I think while I was doing my project, I learned that I had to pick up my slack and I had to pick up their slack, which means production was slow because I had to do 2 jobs instead of 1, and it affected everybody negatively. And difficult employees are everywhere, but it does make it hard for the companies to thrive with these difficult employees.
Hi everyone, this is Cherry Chang. I'm in the team of discussing how to deal with difficult employees. and my part is going to discuss how to communicate with difficult employees. First of all, why communicate? Communicate is to share understanding. Communication helps create a shared understanding between individuals. By expressing thoughts, ideas, and emotions clearly, we can ensure that others comprehended our message accurately. Next, to build relationships. Communication is the foundation for building and maintaining relationships. It allows us to connect with others on an emotional and intellectual level, fostering trust, empathy, and mutual respect. Good communication strengthens bonds, resolves conflicts, and promotes positive interactions. Next, to express needs and desires. Effective communication enabled us to express our needs, desires, and aspirations. By clearly articulating our goals, we increase the likelihood of receiving other support, cooperation, and assistance. It helps in negotiation, problem solving, and achieving desired outcomes. It also allows to resolve issues. It allows individuals to express concerns, listen to different perspectives, and find mutually agreeable solutions. Through open and honest communication, conflicts can be addressed, misunderstanding can be cleared, and relationships can be repaired. Then, personal and professional development. Strong communication skills are essential for personal and professional growth. Effective communication enhances leadership abilities, teamwork, and collaboration. It helps in presenting ideas persuasively, influencing others, and advancing career prospects. And finally, emotional well-being. Communication allowed us to express our emotions, thoughts, and concerns. By sharing our feelings with others, we can elevate strength, gain support, and enhance emotional well-being. It promotes empathy, active listening, and understanding. Then how we are able to communicate with difficult employees. First of all, we could clarify expectations. Communication helps set clear expectations for employees, including performance standards, job responsibilities, and company policies. By providing clear guidelines and feedback, even to underperforming employees, they can understand what is expected of them and work towards improvement. Next, identifying issues. Open communication provides an opportunity for employees to express their concerns, challenges, and obstacles they may be facing. By encouraging open dialogue, employers can identify the underlying issues that may be contributing to poor performances. This allows for targeted support, coaching, or training to address those specific challenges. Then, providing feedback. Effective communication involves providing timely and constructive feedbacks to employees, including those who are not meeting expectations. Constructive feedbacks helps employees understand their areas for improvement, learn from their mistakes, and make necessary adjustments to enhance their performance. Also, offering support and resources. Communication allows employers to offer support and provide resources to struggling employees. By understanding their challenges, employers can provide additional training, mentoring, or resources to help them overcome obstacles and develop the necessary skills for success. Motivating and engaging. Communicating with difficult employees can help reignite their motivation and engagement. By having open discussions about their goals, interests, and aspirations, employers can find ways to align their work with their strength and provide opportunities for growth and development. And also setting a path for improvement. Effective communication helps establish a path for improvement for difficult employees. By discussing performance gaps, setting specific goals, and providing ongoing feedback, employers can outline a roadmap for employees to follow to enhance their performance and contribute positively to the organization. And ultimately, retaining and developing talent. Communication is the key to retaining and developing talent, even for underperforming employees. By investing time and efforts in communication, employers showed a commitment to their employees' growth and development. This can increase employee loyalty, and job certification, and create an environment where employees feel valued and supported. And finally, the conclusion. The effective communication with difficult employees is very important because it helps clarify expectations, identify issues, provide feedback and support, motivate and engage employees, set a path for improvement, and contribute to talent retention and development. It creates an environment where employees can learn, grow, and ultimately contribute to the success of the organization. This is Charlie Chain. Thank you for your listening.
Hello, my name is Leanne Gonzalez, and I will be speaking on conflict mitigation. So why does conflict happen within the workplace? There are a numerous amount of reasons why conflict could happen in the workplace. These are just a few that I've stated on my presentation. So some of them could be differences in perception and values. They can range from personality to culture, experience, and occupation. Differences in goals and priorities, which can be a disagreement over strategy. And they could also be differences in what needs to be prioritized. And differences in methods, which employees can have a different perspective on how to get their work done, as well as they may have a common goal, however, they do have different work outcomes. Other issues could be personalities, they could simply clash and may not necessarily work with each other. Competition as well, usually competition for resources or competition for other things, and it can cause strained relationships as a result, as well as unfulfilled responsibilities. And the unfulfilled responsibilities could be due to the belief that the work is unreliable or unreasonable, too much, or not properly stated. So difficult employees and conflict. So when you are dealing with a difficult employee, it can be even worse than just dealing with an employee that is agreeable or an employee that is willing to do the work that needs to be done. Difficult employees, they can worsen conflict within the workplace because at times they are unwilling to change or underperform. When they are unwilling to change their ways or don't do what they're supposed to do, this can cause many issues within the work environment, within the workplace, and as a result, it can cause some poor performance, poor customer relations, as well as lack of respect for authority. How to mitigate conflicts as a manager. So there are a number of ways, and these are just a couple. Deal with the behavior and not the employee's personality, nor the employee as a person. So when you're dealing with a difficult employee, do not address them by who they are as a person. Address the behavior that is of a concern, or the behavior that is causing the toxic workplace. Look for what is causing the issues in the workplace. Is the employee misunderstanding their role? Are there any personal issues, lack of motivation, etc.? There could be a multitude of reasons why there's issues within the workplace and why an employee is being difficult. Also, be open to feedback as well. Be open to what the difficult employee has to state. Be willing to listen to the employee and listen to why they're not performing properly or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And once that is done, restate their roles and responsibilities and be clear with what they are supposed to be doing. Make sure that you are to go over what their responsibilities are and make sure that the employee fully understands and is aware of their roles. Use reinforcement as well. Reinforcement, punish behavior accordingly, give rewards when deserved, and be fair to all employees. As well as be respectful to the employees. You want to be professional and you want to maintain a neutral undertone. You do not want to get to the level of the employee. You don't want to cause any further issues. You want to remain neutral. There are alternative solutions to mitigate difficult employees. One way could be to speak with the HR. Speak with them, let them know what's going on, that you have an employee who is underperforming or not doing their job properly, so that way HR can take action accordingly. They can put in place a company policy to deal with certain situations. Also, look within yourself as a manager. So as a manager, look into if you're aware of the amount of work this particular employee has, as well as if the employee has valid reasoning as to why they're underperforming. And lastly, let them go. If they decide to not fix their issues, if they decide that they don't want to contribute to the work environment and they don't want to contribute to what they're supposed to do and they have not changed, unfortunately we're going to have to let them go because they are causing issues, and it can cause problems with other employees in the long run, which can lead to poor performance as well. And that's it. Thank you so much for the thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Hi everyone, my name is Tina, and today I will be talking about ways and how to overcome resistance to change when it comes to dealing with difficult employees. So starting off, we're going to talk about different methods, and we are going to talk about the positive methods. These are going to be your best bets when it comes to implementing these changes, implementing better culture, and having that better productivity or better employee morale. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is educating about the change in question. So basically just debunking any myths or concerns, addressing any of those negative emotions, addressing any questions that they may have in order for them to go into this change, having that information readily available, and also presenting those solutions already. The second thing that we have is going to be active participation. We want to make sure as a group that they are engaging in these changes. We want to make sure there are results, positive results. This could look like different things. So maybe we could do team meetings, one-on-ones, or even team games for them to work on that development in a more fun and productive way. These two things here, these are going to go hand in hand, but when we do talk about providing support systems, we do want to see things other than management. So we want to make sure the employee feels like there are more resorts than just kind of like a dead end or anything such as that nature. So when we talk about providing support systems, we want to make sure they feel like they have support from their human resource management, maybe even any therapy or any other financial or economic resources that they could consult with. And of course, we definitely want to make sure they have already a positive and a trusting relation between management or any supervisors who are implementing these changes. So they could come to us directly without any negative resentment. So in order to address any questions, we provide solutions or we could provide any answers. Of course, we want to make sure that there is fair implementation. What this looks like is basically we want to make sure we are going into this with best intent. So no malicious intent, no ways that are basically reducing your livelihood or intending to reduce your livelihood. We want to make sure when we go into this, we are keeping everybody's best interests as much as we can, so the employee, the organization, and the managers as a whole. And lastly, you want to make sure that you are working with or at least developing a team that has adaptable personality traits. So people who are highly receptive to growth, to development, and to change. So these are going to be all positive methods into overcoming that resistance there. And of course, you are going to have the other spectrum, a little bit more of the negative methods. Knowing this makes you aware of what to avoid. So the first one that we have is going to be manipulation. Our example here is only sharing selective information or staging events to indict a certain response. Now, this may not be lying directly. Any type of omission can also be manipulation. If you are not sharing the entire truth or the entire information in order for that recipient to act in a way that you want or that you would intend to, that is manipulation. So you want to make sure that the recipients or the employees are getting all the information so they could decide on their own and they could plan accordingly to their own situation as well. Co-optation, our example, is paying a bonus to a task force to enforce change just by joining. So that is one thing we want to avoid. And to a more intense degree, we have coercion. So this is going to be the worst thing here. So this is going to be your direct threats to status, direct threats to pay, or your reputation or image. And of course, we want to go ahead and understand what may cause a resistance to change. So we do have two groups here. The first four that you see are going to be your more personal reasons. Now, the last four can be more organizational, which we're going to go ahead and dive more deeper into. So things that might cause a resistance are going to be habits. If your team or your employees is already very comfortable and very used to what they're doing, anything new from that, new from what they know, new from what they live and breathe, is going to be quite hard for them to adapt to. So it could be due to habit. It could be due to security because they are already secure knowing that what they have going on is good for them. So this is going to be a lot harder if you already have a lot of things dependent on what you are doing now and dependencies, or just basically if it has any change to that person's livelihood. Fear of the unknown, we did talk about this previously. If you have things that are guaranteed, such as bills, and you cannot guarantee them, such as finances or financial reasons, as we have here, that is going to present a question of how we could handle that. So unpredictability, no guarantees, no warranties is going to be a cause to resistance. These four here are going to be our organizational causes. So when we talk about structural inertia or group inertia, basically what that is the organization cannot handle the change. In fact, it might actually have a more negative or a counterproductive if we start enforcing that change. It might collapse, it might affect other things overall. So essentially the structure is maybe too rigid in order to adapt. And you do also have a threat to enterprise and a threat to established power relations as well. So all of these things could be affecting or could be presenting that resistance. And lastly, to keep in mind, the way that we implement changes also does have an impact on employee health, since they are the main ones who are going to be carrying out or practicing that change. So the first thing that we have seen is relation to insomnia or lower employee health. We have seen emotional exhaustion and also hand-in-hand stress. All of these things could be correlated, or it could be on its own individually. And of course, if you were to do it in a productive way and a very healthy manner, we have seen more increase in productivity, team productivity, and also employee morale as a whole. So all of these things are things to keep in mind when it comes to implementing that change in order to yield the best results. Thank you so much.